It's 27 degrees Celsius here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. The weather is a little hazy. You can barely see about 200 meters in front of you. But this is Sunrise Daily, your daily dose of sunshine. Good morning and welcome to the program. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
It's a Friday, so I'm right here. Good morning and welcome. I'm Kayla Mego. I'm quite sure we have for you today a lot of things to talk about. We're going to be looking at the situation in Benin. There's an update. The foreign minister for Benin was here in Nigeria. So that joint press conference will be part of our conversation. And we're staying on diplomatic matters because we'll also be taking a look at the screening of ambassadorial nominees and the drama that played out yesterday in the National Assembly.
Indeed, Kayla, it was quite interesting to see senators argue over whether or not the screening of Mr. Reno Omokri was going to happen or not. I mean, he was already being screened, but it would seem that Senator Adams Oshomole wanted a comment or two before he was eventually passed. It would seem that some lawmakers said if there were no objections, it should just be a bow and go, because there was no petition before the National Assembly on raising any objection as to whether or not he should take a bow and go. Anyways, it was quite an interesting session. To my mind, it went down without much event, apart from that heated exchange, which when you take a look at it, at the bottom of it, since there were no objections, you then begin to wonder, what exactly was the quarrel about? You know, that is the question. I was hoping that you would say that, because what was this? It didn't. There was something about it, but I'm sure when we play it, everybody will be able to understand what it is that we're talking about here. But another interesting part was that the drama kind of stayed on Reno Omokri. I would have thought Professor, the former INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, would have been the one where there'll be more questions. For some reason, we didn't hear anything about that, but somehow it was Reno Omokri's situation that came up as the drama, and it is a drama which I personally did not understand. What was this about? And of course, that conversation about bow and go. Indeed, it's one of those things where we have to really look at this again. I know it's something that's accorded to people that they consider members of the House, of their brothers, or people who've been here before, or people that they like. But that's not your call, is it? The issue is when you're standing there and about to be representing the Nigerian people in any way, shape, or form, you are under the obligation to explain to the Nigerian people issues in your past, what your antecedents are, what you're bringing to the table. And I think the lawmakers really have to think about this again. It's not about you or your cronies. It's about the Nigerian people, Malfe. Indeed. That sometimes is lost, or that many times is lost. And it would seem that it's now being taken as a mark of respect to the president not to question too much. If any questions were raised at all, don't question too much the nominees. I mean, it had to take a pressure from President Donald Trump for us to be able to ask questions of the nominee who had been picked for the Ministry of Defense, or as Minister of Defense. Remember that conversation that went down when General Christopher Musa appeared before the National Assembly, the Senate more specifically, in recent times. And somebody, after like one or two questions, said he should bow and go. And the Senate president said, don't you know Donald Trump will be watching this? I'm like, it takes Donald Trump to get you guys to ask questions. Anyways, let's not talk too much. You can make up your mind what you will. Take a listen to how the screening, if we can call it that, went down yesterday in the National Assembly, and we'll take it from there.
Senator. It's an unusually light agenda on the last day of plenary as lawmakers opt to shift focus to committee meetings. Ambassadorial nominees of the president began to arrive at the National Assembly in preparation for their screening. In fives, the notable names including the former INEC chairman, the former sole administrator of Rivers State, former Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Abdurrahman Dambazau, appeared before the panel.
My name is Mahmoud Yakubu, former Executive Secretary, Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TED Fund, and former Chairman INEC.
Retired Lieutenant General Abdurrahman Bello Dambazau, a former Chief of Army Staff, and former Minister of Interior. Thank you.
My name is Fatima Florence Ajimobi, wife of late Senator Abiola Ajimobi from Oyo State. I appear before...
Finish. We all know you. Finish.
Thank you.
My name is Professor Isaac Adewale, former president of the African Organization for Research and Training in Cancer, former Vice Chancellor, University of Ibadan, former Minister of Health, Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Members of this honorable committee, my name is Chief Femi Fani-Kayode. I was the Minister of Aviation of this country, and I was also the Minister of Culture and Tourism of this country.
After brief introductions, former ministers, lawmakers and ambassadors are equally asked to take a bow. Defending the practice, the Senate's leader immediately provides clarifications.
The people that we asked to take a bow and go were people who had the privilege of serving as elected members of the National Assembly. And the reason why that is done, not only in Nigeria, but all over the world, is the fact that we do not, our rules will not allow us to waste the precious time of the public and of the media in trying to screen them all over again. We also relied on the report, the security report from the DSS, from the police, and other relevant security agencies.
However, tension broke out at the turn of former presidential spokesman, Mr. Reno Omokri. A motion had been raised for him to take a bow and leave, but a lawmaker insists on making a comment before the motion can be adopted.
If there is a motion on ground, it should be seconded. If it is not seconded, it's dead.
Mr. Chairman, I think I needed to speak on this in the public interest. With particular reference to the nominee, Reno. Because we cannot pretend we have not had stories.
We can't work on stories.
For me.
There is no petition before the
For me. And so when I talk, those who are not the governors should listen.
Governors come to Senate.
You have to have...
Governors, you struggle to...
Your Excellency, you have to have that large hand.
Become a senator.
You have to have, for me, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has showed a rare quality.
For several minutes, the face-off continued, bringing the screening process to a standstill.
Senator Ndume, are you opposed to Omokri's nomination?
No.
Senator Shomon, are you opposed to the nomination?
Finally, calm was restored. The committee subsequently cleared all 67 nominees ahead of their final confirmation on the Senate floor next week.
Meanwhile, like the House, President Bola Tinubu had earlier transmitted the 2026 to 2028 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper to the Senate for consideration and approval in a correspondence submitted to the upper chamber and read by the Deputy Senate President, seeking expedited legislative action. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Well, so that's how it went down at the National Assembly with the screening of the ambassadorial nominees. But as Kayla did highlight earlier on this program, we will be taking on more diplomatic issues. The botched coup in Benin Republic comes center stage. And as the heads of state and government of ECOWAS prepare for their meeting this Sunday, there have been quite a number of activities at the ECOWAS Secretariat here in Abuja. One of which we saw was the briefing done by the Foreign Minister of Benin Republic in joint consultation with the Foreign Affairs Minister of Nigeria, where the Foreign Affairs Minister of Benin Republic, showed and expressed gratitude to the Nigerian government for their swift intervention in what could have been a successful coup. So we now have a track for you to listen to. We now have a track for you to listen to in terms of what it is that he said.
This is very important, and we show that in our region, in our environment, we cannot accept those attempts to democracy. we request, the intervention of under ECOWAS protocol of Nigeria and other countries, so Cote d'Ivoire, Sierra Leone, and Ghana, who also offer the support, was after request of Benin. We request the support of our brothers and sisters, not because our army was not capable to do it, because actually, the loyalist force in Benin, they stop, the attention.
Well, that's the Foreign Affairs Minister of Benin Republic. His name is Olusegun Ajadi Bakari. Very similar to a Nigerian name.
SH, I think.
Yes, but it will be pronounced Shegun. Well, we do know that intervention caused quite a bit of debate here in Nigeria. There were those who condemned the coup in Benin Republic, condemned any change, any unconstitutional change of government, but then we're wondering why Nigeria had to intervene with its own military, saying, has Nigeria finished taking care of its own security issues, so much so that it has the time and the effort and the energy to intervene in another country's problems. But to provide perspective, because we do know that in international relations, sometimes the headache of your next door neighbor could immediately become your headache. And we have someone to help provide perspective on this matter. We have Mr. Abdul Razak Ibrahim, who is a lecturer, Department of Political Science and International Relations at the Now University. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having
this
me.
morning on Sunrise Daily. I'm sure you've been watching with very keen interest developments within Nigeria and, of course, within the ECOWAS sub-region as well. We saw the ECOWAS Commission raise or declare a state of emergency on democracy in its region. We also heard the National Assembly approve the deployment of ground troops to Benin Republic, as Nigeria's ground troops to Benin Republic. And people will say, do we really need that? Because we just heard the Minister of Foreign Affairs saying, in one breath thanking Nigeria, but saying that, it was saying that their own armed forces can take it from there. What were your thoughts when you heard about this attempted coup in Benin Republic?
Good morning once again, and thank you for having me. When I heard the attempted coup, what really comes to my mind is that coups don't just happen. There are triggers, and one of the reasons that was propounded by the militaries that attempted the coup was that there is growing number of discontent among the military, the way they are being treated, most especially the soldiers that have been into war, those that are protecting the territorial integrity of Benin Republic. Away from that, they equally emphasize some of the security concerns within that region, because within the corridor of Burkina Faso, they notice the spread among the jihadis and the terrorists now affecting their territorial integrity. This is one of the main interests of every nation, to provide adequate security for her own country. So having said that, one can say, yes, this is germane for them to be able to do this. Now, let's now
focus. It's germane for the coup plotters to do what they did?
No, like this, the government of Nigeria to come in and then to arrest and nip the security challenge so that they will not be able to escalate their own borders into the Nigerian borders. One of the major hooks in international relations is national interest. What is Nigerian national interest in this case? Let me furnish us with this important information. The number of Nigerians that are resident in Benin Republic are in millions. Nigeria is having some other internal security challenges that we are trying to battle with. Imagine if the state is thrown into chaos and then there will now be displacement in millions. That will affect their economy, that will affect every facet of their life. So Nigerians cannot afford again to allow this, even if for this reason alone, one will say, yes, it is important for Nigerians to intervene in this security challenge. And remember that Nigeria is equally the regional leader within this bloc. So leaders are expected to be responsible. And that might have informed the decision, most especially the swift decision taken by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
You know, looking at the situation in Benin, I'll come to the conversation that was had yesterday with both ministers of foreign affairs. But there is a growing discontentment. I hope I'm getting that word right. People are discontented with democracy in this region. And it's not about democracy in itself, it's about the kind of leadership that we've seen. Sit-tight presidents, widespread corruption. ECOWAS is an economic community. This economic community doesn't seem to be thriving. And we're looking at countries now, looking at other options, you know, trying to see if they can create democratic principles that are that reflect their own principles as a people. And then some are moving to the military, like we're seeing in parts of the region. What can be done? Because sending forces, you can put as many forces as you want everywhere. If the root issues are not being sorted out, you would even get more resistance from people in these countries. So what do you think can be done? Because it does feel like, if we're saying that they should provide good leadership, that's a 10-year plan before we start to see actual results of good leadership. But what can be done to restore faith in democratic principles in this region?
I think what can be done to restore democratic faith in the people is simple, good governance. Because one of the reasons that was postulated by the coup plotters is equally issues referring to the instability in the nation. And instability will equally threaten the internal security. When people are hungry, they become susceptible to being you can easily employ them to do the bad things that they are not supposed to do. Take, for instance, the bandits. Some of them became very easy prey because of their economic downturn. So good governance is one of the main things that I will suggest that all the countries that are within this sub-West African region, they should key in, because democracy is not an end in itself. Democracy is supposed to take us to the promised land. If you don't have a good leader that is responsible to guarantee people the dividend of democracy, it's just like having a good car with an insane driver. He will not take you to the right destination. So African leaders need to take this fact that irrespective of the fact that we have a democratic system in place, they should now take those responsibility of being responsible leaders within the
How can ECOWAS enforce that? Because ECOWAS condemns, we strongly condemn in strong terms, strongly condemn in strong terms. But how do you ensure that leaders within your region are doing the right thing? Can they even do anything about it?
Well, ECOWAS cannot really enforce compliance to democratic principles, absolutely. However, they can try by educating the leaders, training the leaders, and having conferences just like the one that they have just described, because they've noticed that this is a critical issue that if they don't allow it to, if they allow it to continue, you know, they've just celebrated 2 decades of democracy within this West African sub-region. And now, this ad-hand democracy, if they allow it to just go this way without being protected, that means it's going to cause a lot of trouble within the West African sub-region. So they could lay more emphasis on training and retraining of the leaders, and then you can even catch them young. They could have some
training
clubs.
of the leaders?
Yes, they could go for
good leaders.
Yes, they could go for seminars. Yes.
I'm just curious. I do not know how that will work. I mean, I'm just trying to imagine the president of our country going for training.
Yes, they now tell you you have to behave in such a way.
If you look at the, for example, the legislature, they have an institute where they have been trained to become a good legislature.
Yeah, because legislation is technical in nature.
Yes, the same thing is applicable to leadership, because there are some of the principles that you notice at times the president could take the law into their hand, and that's why the institution of the judiciary is there, so that they can check their excesses. So taking them down, having these conversations with them, and letting them know how important getting good governance is germane, most especially within this critical time that our security is being challenged within this sub-region, is something that they cannot joke with.
Well, what I think came as a surprise to me was the conversations that, came forth in the wake of the intervention, Nigeria's intervention. We saw the statement written by Mr. Bayo Onanuga, talking about Nigeria's intervention, why we intervened, the fact that there was a note verbal to that effect. Otherwise, if there was no note verbal inviting Nigeria, that would have been termed an invasion and a breach of the sovereignty of another country. But we went there at the invitation of the Beninois government, and the foreign minister has since confirmed that. But it would seem that a lot of Nigerians were not quite proud of our intervention. They felt that, look, if we can be that swift in answering the call of Benin Republic, then perhaps we should be swifter in answering our own internal security issues, which they believe should be of priority. What was your take on that debate while it raged?
My take is, first and foremost, the dynamics between the two types of insecurity that is being tackled. What we are facing mostly in Nigeria is like a guerrilla warfare, that you don't really see your enemy. But I'm not saying that the government, do they need to do more? Yes, they need to do more. And that is what is bringing those grievances by the masses, including me. Because this is a youthful era, and you can see that the cost of even the air flight have increased because of the insecurity that we have been saddled with in Nigeria. So having said that, I think that this should be a wake-up call for the Nigerian government to equally enforce that energy that they could use in going to rescue other nations, to do more within our own country. If they do that, yes, that will make Nigerians to be more proud of them, and then it will restore the confidence that they have in government.
Do you think it also came from a place of a lack of understanding? Because while we were on air, I mean, I remember I was joking with the fact that I think it was a former president of Benin Republic who used to joke that Benin Republic is the 37th state of Nigeria. I mean, just to show just how important and strategically important they were to us. And, our neighbors, we have a lot in common in terms of culture. And I was just noting the name of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Benin Republic. It's if you said that name even in Europe, anywhere in the Southwest,
yes,
everybody will know what it means.
Yes.
That's just how close in terms of cultural ties we are, and also, strategic ties, more or less. If Nigeria sneezes, Benin Republic will immediately catch a cold. Similarly, if there is a headache in Benin Republic, Nigeria will suddenly feel it on its very important border, because Benin Republic strategically borders Lagos,
yes,
which is a commercial capital. So I'm wondering, when I saw that debate rage, I was wondering if a lot of Nigerians were really aware of the strategic importance that Benin Republic holds in the scheme of things for Nigeria.
I think the public are aware. However, there is this popular saying that in Yoruba that they will tell you that you should you should be more concerned about yourself when people are on fire. So that might have informed the public opinion and the discontent that we are seeing within them. But if they are more attention that they give to the collective security, you know, security is not just, it's a holistic thing. So if they know how deep it is for them to be able to protect our territorial integrity and the next door neighbors, if before the independence of Nigeria, these people were living as a nation before they were being carved out of Nigeria, and they have a lot of synergy, just like Niger. You can see the way they frustrated the attack that was intended by the president of Niger, because they are cousins, they are families, they are just like twins. And then this make it important for us to, I think, National Orientation Agency could equally do more by educating the masses more on the need for them to be aware of the reasons why we need to take into consideration the territorial integrity of our neighbors and the security within those axes, because it's a block.
Indeed. Well, the meeting of heads of state and government in ECOWAS will be happening this weekend. We know that, yeah, they'll be meeting on Sunday. But before that time, we've been seeing quite a number of meetings happening. And part of what we saw was this briefing by the minister. During the week, ECOWAS declared a state of emergency on the state of democracy within the ECOWAS region. What do you think that should mean?
Yes, I think it's coming rather too late, because this is not the first coup attempt. This is not the second one, and then the failed one. So why now, if we may ask? They ought to have been this conscious effort in doing this before the issues are now escalating. Because the danger there now is that the Sahel have formed a block. And it's going to be difficult for you to be able to deal with this block, because they pool their resources and their manpower together and their military strength, and they are trying to challenge. It's like them versus us. And that makes the situation more difficult to unravel. So I think ECOWAS ought to have done something earlier before now. However, it is a step in the right direction that is just coming now, and we hope that this will serve as a litmus test for them, whether they could sustain it, because this is not the first time they've been having this type of conversation and conferences.
What do you think will be discussed behind closed doors? Because you have said that leaders will need to deliver on good governance. Do you think that they will have the courage and the, yeah, I think courage is going to be a large part of it, and the honesty to be able to have very frank conversations amongst themselves with regards to the state of development within the ECOWAS region?
I think they will be able to do that at this moment, because, you know, leadership is a holistic thing. Not that just when I mentioned that they should train the president, governance is, you understand, there are the ministers, there could be retreats, there could be all sorts of that could let those that are assisting the government know their responsibility and wake up to their responsibility. With this, even if they are being relatively silent about it, with the happenings now, all the presidents that are within this ECOWAS sub-region are equally jittering, because there is this link between one coup and another. So this will serve as a wake-up call for them to do the right thing.
I think that ECOWAS, and maybe you can speak to this, needs to understand that the times have changed. This is not the 1990s, making statements strongly condemning issues. There has to now be actions that reflect the anger of the people in this region. And, you know, we're laughing when you talked about training of presidents, because with African leaders, it feels like threats work. Threats and sanctions work. You know, it's almost as though you have to compel people. We can't appeal to consciences anymore. It is clear. that many of the leaders in this region do not have a conscience. You sit tight, you watch your people die, you're watching all of these things happen. It's a fact. We can't sugarcoat it, you know. But I want you to be able to get your thoughts on, you can speak to that as well, but to get your thoughts on the call for a standby force. Because that was one of the major things that were discussed yesterday in the meeting between both foreign affairs ministers, the importance of establishing a standby regional force to prevent future destabilization attempts. But both Ambassador Tuga and the Beninois foreign minister said the same thing. Standby force located where, funded by who? What are your thoughts on that? Because that's an ongoing conversation. In fact, our Minister of Defense right now, when he was Chief of Defense Staff, had a meeting with Chiefs of Defense Staff in the region where they were now talking about how this was supposed to happen and how it's supposed to be funded, where is it located, where do they get their orders from? What do you make of that?
Standby force has always been part of the ECOWAS principles and missions. You know, in the past, we've had the ECOMON, and we've seen their swift intervention in arresting some instability in Liberia and a host of other African countries. However, most of the countries that are within this, there are 15 member countries that are within these countries, find it difficult to make their remittance. So the ball of the whole financing will still stop at the door of Nigeria. And Nigeria is equally battling with some challenges. Even our budget for 2026 is, there is this clamor that they are going to be borrowing. So Nigeria cannot afford to play that big brother role that we've been playing in the past, because our interests equally need to be looked at in this ramification, because we've been doing it and some of them have not been paying us in the right way and the positive way. So I think Nigerians should just they should have a rejig and see whether we could continue to fund this when we are having other securities and issues and economic challenges.
I mean, but we'll continue that conversation, but just so we can give you some breaking news right now, the alleged 2.2 billion naira fraud, the EFCC set to arraign former Minister of Labor and Productivity, Chris Ngige. We have the visuals. I hope he's in court. At least I saw pictures and videos of him in court right now. He's been arraigned before Justice Miriam Hassan of the Federal Capital Territory High Court in Gwarimpa. Set to be arraigned on this 8-count charge. The former minister arrived at the premises of the court alongside a team of EFCC officials around 8:10 a.m. this morning. And of course, we'll be giving you the details of that as it unfolds. But right now, just so you can understand that is happening at this moment, this alleged 2.2 billion naira alleged fraud, the EFCC arraigning former Minister of Labor and Productivity, Mr. Chris Ngige.
Indeed. Well, at this point, I think that while we go back to the conversation that we were having, you have said some of the things that you're hoping you'll see this particular Sunday as the heads of state and government meet. I also wanted to ask if you had a comment or two with regards to the screening of the ambassadors that happened yesterday. You're chuckling. Was it funny?
Doctor thinks
Not
it's funny.
really. I think I want to be silent about that for now.
Why? Why would you want to be silent about that?
I'm taken aback. I didn't expect that.
Why? Tell us why you want to be silent about it.
Because I have some reservation on the crop of the people that are selected. Ambassadors are supposed mostly with the type of challenges we are having with other nations. First and foremost, they are coming at the late hour, and you can see that the career ambassadors are not really much on the list. And international relation and diplomacy is not a child's play. It's your image. That's the country's image. And now taking just the politicians mostly is one of the things that I'm not really comfortable about.
As we're wrapping up with you, just so people can understand the difference between career and non-career ambassadors, because I think a lot of Nigerian people don't really know the difference.
Yes, career ambassadors and non-career ambassadors are the major departure between them is these are people that have been trained in the act of foreign affairs and diplomacy. The career ambassadors, they work mostly in the foreign affairs ministry. Some of them are scholars in this area, and they've had a lot of trainings and experience, because there are some things that you don't really see in the book. You understand? So, and in diplomacy, your relationship can equally influence and induce a whole lot of issues. Now bringing the politicians that are just being appointed based on their relationship with the president, maybe it's a payback time for their effort in what they have contributed in making him win the election, is something that
the non-career ambassadors.
Yes,
I think you already mentioned that.
Yes.
Well, we'll take your comment on silence very seriously on that, even though you've expatiated a bit. We have to thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. Dr. Abdulrazak Ibrahim is a lecturer, Department of Political Science and International Relations at the Now University. Thank you once more for coming on the program. Well, we'll take a break now. When we return, we will continue our conversation on trending events for the week. Please stay with us. Well, yes, we're now being joined by Mr. Matthias Sado, who is a public affairs analyst and also the convener of the Hope Platform Initiative. I just want to ask you, in the spirit, just in case you're wondering, you know, why it looked like we seem very upbeat this December season. We've been talking about Dirty December behind the scenes, and I'm just a little curious. Are you traveling for Christmas?
Well, I don't think I'll be able to travel for Christmas considering the current economic situation in the country.
Wow. I mean, especially when you now consider the airfares. I mean, if you decide to go by air to wherever it is you're going, by road, well,
it's not the best of times for
full Abuja.
Yeah, we're going to. I think
from
all indications, we'll probably be thinking of having a dirty Abuja.
And maybe it's something that should be. Yeah, because we heard the federal government did say that they were going to do something about keying into that. What did you, how many billion?
$2 billion
Naira or dollars economy. I think it was the Minister for Culture and Tourism who had said that there was going to be a task force. What we do not know is if that task force would also include Abuja.
Well, it's a suggestion now to them, considering the fact that the government seems to have been. And again, sometimes when I say these things, people think that maybe I'm just being critical about the government. But sincerely speaking, if you look at what is happening in the country today, nobody is really impressed by the goings, the ongoings in the Nigerian state. The government has not demonstrated capacity to do a lot of things. So perhaps suggestions such as these might be one of the things that could help them. However, I know that some of us have thrown a lot of ideas and suggestions out there for government to harness and be able to build a better society for us, for the people. However, unfortunately, I think nobody seems to be thinking in that direction. If they consider a dirty December in Abuja, dirty December in Kaduna, then if it's such a big industry, and I believe it should be, if it's something that is going to bring a lot of resources for FCT, I would consider it's something that they should pay attention to.
Our figures are wrong. Our figures are wrong. It's actually a lot more. Just last year, they made $71.6 million. That's about 54 billion naira. So I'm sure what the minister was looking at is a $2 billion.
Yeah, it's $2 billion. You said
plan. Yeah. Well, we said naira.
It's $2 billion.
Yeah, $2 billion. That's a lot of money.
It is.
Well, I do know that the National Assembly, they've been quite concerned about the cost of flight tickets and what have you. I do not know what your thoughts are with regards to, you know, the intervention of the National Assembly. Those who say, we should be careful, you know, this is a deregulated industry. We shouldn't be. Do you think our government has a role in helping to bring down the cost of airfare?
You see, again, sometimes these things are They are not detached from one another. The National Assembly trying to intervene in the aviation industry, asking questions about the price of airfare, is neither here or there, because fundamentally a lot of things have gone wrong. Since the deregulation of the petrol industry, the removal of subsidy by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And I'll keep going back to the President of this country because the buck stopped at his desk. Since the removal of subsidy, fuel subsidy, what exactly can we lay our fingers on today that this is what has been achieved? This is 3 years, almost 3 years down the line. So when government officials come up with some of these analyses, and we just look at what we saw yesterday at the National Assembly, at the bow and go, I don't know, shenanigan, that you are sending people to a very important and strategic on a very strategic assignment. It is like when a Roman Empire wants to send a general on a mission to another country to go and represent him, and then you pick people, you pick somebody, and then they go before the Senate, and then the Senate say, okay, don't tell us anything. Don't even bother to give us a history of your what's it called, your profile. Just you are a wife of a former governor. Just bow and go. These things are irritating to my spirit, because really, as a society, where you became a channel staff, did you bow and go before the leadership of Channels Television? Kela, was that what you did when you applied to work here? The work you are doing here today, if it was bow and go that they have that gave you this job, would you have been able to do it like this? So you see, we have leadership in Nigeria, and it worries me because, sincerely speaking, we are drifting into adopting these things as systems, as style, as strategies, that this is how our life is as a society. It is becoming a norm, and for me it is something that worries me, because I believe that in this country we have some of the most excellent, best set of people that can deliver this country, that can give to Nigerians a society that works. So when we see this kind of caricature that leaders at the National Assembly, look, there is a whole lot that is wrong with the system. There's a whole lot that is wrong with the system. If they call, they want to intervene in the, what's it called, the aviation industry, they should ask themselves, the National Assembly that we have today, have the budget of 2024 has it completely been implemented? What happened to the capital component of 2025 budget? So what we are hearing, in fact, for the first time in my life, I am seeing a situation where contractors in this country are protesting that, look, and sincerely speaking, I always tell you that I'm an economist by choice. Look, the situation that the government is creating for the society is such that when we get into 2026, they probably would want to release funds, perhaps because of general elections of 2027. However, the problem that they have not put into consideration is the fact that the backlog of 2025, they have so many contractors who have incurred all kinds of interest rate from the banks. And the banks will never allow them, they are not going to write off those interests. So when we get into 2026, whatever amount of funds you are releasing them, some of them to take care of the backlog of 2026. That means that by 2026, the projects that you want to execute will not be executed. We have that. This is the reason why we have a lot of failed projects in Nigeria. Between 2015 and 2023, we have seen a display of lack of clarity by the leadership of the APC. And I'm not sounding this because I'm not a member of APC. I'm saying this because clearly on the street of this country, I was just coming here this morning and listening to radio programs, a lot of complaints everywhere that, okay, the president is saying, they're talking about December and all that. How are people going to go home? You just asked me. The people that we have, artisans that go to do daily activities, daily services in businesses or places where they have construction centers and all that. All of these things are not working because all of them are shut down. You have a situation where somebody who was given a project to build a school has borrowed money from the bank, and he had started the project. But because there are funds are not released, the man has told all his staff to go back home. I have a friend, this is not hearsay, I have a friend who has shut down his business.
You know, so only yesterday, 2 days ago, I think it was the president who had a meeting. I think this was almost lost. I don't know if our producer can quickly produce that particular track. And it was a very, I think what was interesting for me was, we rarely hear the president these days, so it stood out for me because it was one of the very few times. We will hear that, oh, the presidency has ordered or the president has ordered, but we rarely hear from the president himself, except if he's at a gathering and those engagements now will seem like they're few and far between. On this particular occasion, though, he was speaking like he was in cabinet, giving instructions as to reiterating the fact that, you know, his order with regards to police being deployed to VIP still stands, is in place. Right. And then he also expressed concern, I think even more than concern, with regards to the fact that contractors have not been paid. I mean, I think he was saying something to the effect that we are a sovereign state. If indeed, you know, we are in such a dire situation, even though it's kind of hard to reconcile, and you might be right on the fact that we need a little more clarity, because we say we've not made this much revenue in a long time. The CBN is telling us our forex reserves are growing, and yet we seem to be borrowing more than ever. And he also did say that if we're in such a situation where we found it unable to pay our contractors, we could have borrowed to pay them. Now, they were that important and that strategic in the scheme of things for us to prioritize payment for contractors. I do not know if the track is ready now, but I want to believe that this was the event of Wednesday when that meeting eventually held. If it is ready, I can get a signal in I can get a confirmation, but it would be nice. I think we're almost out of time. Well, to at least listen to what it is that he said with regards to that, and whether you found that as any comfort with regards to the statements he made at that particular meeting.
Well, you see, the thing is that it's an embarrassment for us to look at, to discuss this issue, if at all. It was just 2 days ago that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria will realize that backlogs of projects that are supposed to have been funded by his government, that it has not been done. It has, and then he's just like they always say, the president expresses shock that such kind of things are happening in his government. It's a failure of leadership. In the simplest term that I can put it, it means that you, as the man at the helm of affair, you are not aware of what is happening within your environment, and that tells you why we are having so much of this kind of problems.
Because so you don't find it any comfort?
No, I am rather embarrassed on behalf of the president that if at all that he realizes that that was an issue, he should have quickly asked them to shut down and let have an immediate inner cycle conversation. It's not something that you come on air to let the whole world know that you as the president of the country do not know what you are doing. Because that is what it means.
Well, we'll see if it eventually translates into action and the National Assembly also doesn't get involved in this. But, Mr. Sado, time is never our friend. You say you're spending your Christmas here in Abuja. We wish you all the very best.
Thank
the best
you.
to you and your family.
Happy Christmas to Nigerians, even though things are not as we expected.
Yeah.
But let there be hope. By the grace of God, not hope like Tinubu's hope by 2027, we should get it right in Nigeria.
We'll see about that. We have to thank you for coming on to Sunrise Daily this morning, Mr. Matthias Sado. He's a public affairs analyst and also the convener of the Hope Platform Initiative. Well, he says it's not hope like the president, so, but I didn't know there was a differentiation in that regard. Well, thank you so much for being a part of today's program. Amaupe Ogri Yusuf.
Indeed, just so we can follow up on that breaking news, Chris Ngige has pleaded not guilty to the 8-count charge. And of course, counsel for the EFCC is asking the court for a date for the commencement of trial. So that's a story that we'll be following up on in the course of today. And hey, remember, it's Friday. My bill is rising. But 8:30 tonight, we'll be having our guest on hard copy. Very interesting conversation that we're going to be having. And it's going to be all about the ADC. So tune in for that one. I'm Kayla Magua. Have a great weekend ahead.
Au revoir.